Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us as part of Florida Climate Week. My name is Amelia Gary, and I'm here alongside Christopher Smith to share the work that the Florida Public Health Association has been doing with the Smart Surface Initiative. And this is an initiative approach to tackling some of the most pressing climate and health challenges facing our state. The Florida Public Health Association, or FPHA, is the leading voice for public health here in the state of Florida. We are proud to be an affiliate of the American Public Health Association, also known as APHA. APHA has been a national leader in public health for over 150 years, with a diverse membership network dedicated to advancing health and well-being across all sorts of communities. And as part of this larger network, FPHA builds on that legacy in the state of Florida. So our mission is to enhance public health awareness and practice through advocacy, education, and collaboration. We support Florida's public health professionals, students, and statewide infrastructure by providing opportunities to learn, connect, and lead. Our current work with the Smart Surface Initiative directly reflects this mission, and we're committed to making sure that climate and health solutions are equitable, evidence-based, and community-driven so that every Floridian can live in a healthier, more resilient environment. The work here in Florida has been a part of something much bigger. The American Public Health Association, or APHA, selected 6 affiliates across the country to take part in this Smart Surface Initiative. On this map, you can really see the different cities and regions that were chosen. Throughout the course of the grant, we've been able to be in close contact with all of the affiliates, sharing lessons learned and other challenges that they've been going through and highlighting what's worked well in different communities. The grant began in 2023 and we are now on our final term, and it's been very exciting just to see how different states and cities have approached this work and how the connections we've built through this initiative are creating such a foundation for future collaborations. So what exactly are smart surfaces? Smart surfaces are infrastructure solutions. These are things that we build into our cities and neighborhoods that help make our communities healthier and cooler and more resistant to climate change. They're designated to do 2 main things. First, to help reduce extreme heat by keeping our cities cooler. And then second, they help manage stormwater, which also reduces flooding and different types of pollutions. So here on this slide, we can see some examples of smart surfaces. We have cool or green roofs, which reflect sunlight and lower building temperatures. We have permeable pavements, which let rainwater soak through instead of flooding streets. We have urban tree canopies and rain gardens, which provide shade, filter air, and absorb water. We have solar panels, which generate clean energy while also shading rooftops. And even new materials like low carbon concrete helps reduce emissions while also improving durability. So what's really powerful is these strategies are very cost effective, scalable, and work in better together. So for example, combining both a green roof with a solar panel doesn't just save energy, but also provides cooling, absorbs rainwater, and creates great space all in one. So this visual here shows what a city looks like before smart surfaces are added. And you can see the dense buildings, the concrete and metal surfaces, and the dark impermeable asphalt that covers most of the street and sidewalks. All of these materials absorb and trap heat, creating what's known as an urban heat island. So in these kinds of environment, temperatures on city blocks can be dramatically higher than the surrounding area. That makes it harder for people to stay cool and safe and drives up energy costs and contributes to poor air quality. So this is the challenge many of our communities are facing today, and that's why smart surfaces are designated to fix. And then here's an after photo when a city can look like once smart surfaces are put into place. You can see the difference immediately. There are more trees and shaded areas, lighter colored concrete that reflects heat instead of absorbing it. And then there's some rain gardens and a bioswale that capture water and reduce flooding. And then there's also an underwater storage tank, which helps manage that stormwater during those heavy rain events that may occur. And then of course, together, these events create cooler, greener, and healthier neighborhoods. So not only do they make the city more comfortable to live in, but they also protect public health, reduce energy costs, and support long-term sustainability. So this is the kind of transformation that smart surfaces can bring onto our communities. When we talk about extreme heat, we're not just talking about a hot summer day. We're talking about a growing public health crisis. Right now, about 46% of Americans experience at least 3 consecutive days each year where the temperature reaches over 100 degrees or higher. But within the next 30 years, that number is expected to rise to almost 63%. So for us here in the South, the projections are even more alarming. By mid-century, many communities could face over 70 consecutive days of 100-degree temperatures. And that's just not comfortable. It's very dangerous. Heat is already the leading cause of weather-related deaths in the United States, more than hurricanes, floods, and tornadoes. And unless we take action, the risks will only continue to grow, hitting the most vulnerable populations in the hardest. So why should we focus on smart surfaces? If you look at this graph that I've pulled from the Smart Surface website, you can see the difference in the high heat levels across the areas. In dense urban areas with lots of pavement and dark rooftops, that temperature is going to be the highest. But in the more rural areas where there's a natural mix of trees and vegetation, that temperature is much lower. And so this is what we call the urban heat island effect, and it doesn't affect everyone equally. Urban heat disproportionately impacts vulnerable populations, especially those low-income communities and communities of color. And often these people that live in these neighborhoods have less tree cover, more concrete, and fewer resources to adapt in general. So traditionally, infrastructure such as things like black asphalt, concrete, and dark rooftop traps that heat, contributes to poor air quality, and drives up those energy costs. But studies show that the cities that adopt these smart surfaces experience significantly lower temperatures, reducing those energy costs and encouraging better health outcomes. So in short, smart surfaces offer a comprehensive public health centered solution. They make our cities not just cooler, but also more livable and more climate ready. The benefits of smart surfaces go far beyond just cooling down a city. These strategies touch on environmental health and economic outcomes all at once. First, they reduce indoor and outdoor temperatures, which directly lowers the risks of heat-related illnesses and death. Secondly, they create more shade and green space, which not only makes our neighborhoods more pleasant, but also encourages physical activity and supports mental health. And then third, smart surfaces reduce air pollution. That means fewer cases of asthma, heart disease, and premature death, particularly in those vulnerable communities that are already facing high exposure. So, and finally, these solutions lower energy costs from both residents and businesses by reducing the need for air conditioning and cooling. So in other words, smart surfaces just doesn't help the climate resilience, but it also ultimately saves lives, improves equity, and cuts those costs. It's a win across the board. One of the most concerning impacts of climate change is the rise in heat-related mortality. Research shows that by mid-century, the United States could see between 3,500 and 27,000 additional deaths every year from heat alone due to climate-related warming. But it's important to note that these impacts are not felt equally. Of course, those low-income neighborhoods and communities of color are disproportionately affected, and these are areas often facing higher levels of heat exposure because they have fewer trees and more asphalt, like I mentioned earlier. So, of course, they have less access to resources such as air conditioning and cooling centers as well. So when we talk about climate change and heat, we're not just talking about weather, we're also talking about the vulnerability and the public health concerns. So that's why smart surfaces is so important. They don't just reduce the temperatures, but they help protect the communities that are the greatest at risk. Extreme heat doesn't just make us uncomfortable, it actually makes our air quality worse. At higher air temperatures, we see more formation of ground level ozone and a harmful pollutant. By lowering summer air temperatures, smart surfaces can actually reduce that ozone level. And when ozone goes down, so do our health problems like asthma and heart disease. So the cost of ozone pollution are staggering. So just a 1 part per billion increase in ozone could raise health costs by $2.7 billion each year, and a 2 part per billion increase can double that to 5.4 billion. So smart surfaces also help in other ways by reducing that need for energy from fossil fuels. less energy use means fewer emissions from power plants, which leads to that reduction in fine particle pollutants. So that translates into even more of a health benefit, like fewer causes of asthma and fewer heart attacks, like I talked about before. So improving air quality is just yet another smart way smart surfaces can protect both our health and our economy. So as part of our grant, we wanted to make sure that the community voices were at the center of the conversation. So to do that, we partnered with LIST to facilitate 5 smart service focus groups across different communities. And the goal was simply to better understand the people's perspectives and needs around climate resilience and infrastructure, especially when it comes to urban heat and environmental health equity. So during these sessions, we shared easy to understand materials that explained why smart services are and how they worked. And what we found was that most participants had never heard of the term before, but once they understood the concept, there was a strong recognition that climate and health issues are real and very urgent. So participants also expressed that they wanted to take action, but many emphasized that the financial support and resources would be key for moving forward. So these focus groups not only helped us identify local barriers and opportunities, but it also showed the importance of community-driven solutions. By listening first, we were able to design strategies that truly reflect what communities needed and wanted. Our main goal within the work was much more of a threefold approach. So first, we wanted to mitigate the effects of urban heat and our changing environment. We know rising temperatures are one of the most pressing climate challenges for Florida, and smart surfaces provide a direct practical solution. Second, to reduce disparities in public health and environmental quality. Too often, communities most exposed to heat and pollutants are also the ones with the fewest resources to adapt. So smart surfaces gave us a way to bring equity into the conversation and make sure benefits reach those who need them the most. And third, to promote smart services through education and advocacy nationwide. This is not just a local project, it also is about raising awareness, building partnerships, and creating momentum across communities in the different states. At the heart of this, smart services are not just about cooling down neighborhoods, they're about building equity by addressing environmental disparities so we can improve health outcomes, spark innovation in urban planning, and ensure that our communities are resilient in the face of climate change. This work was only possible because of our strong partnerships. At FPHA, we have collaborated with organizations like LISC Jacksonville, the City of Jacksonville, several academic partners and community members to test and promote our smart services strategies. So going forward, it will take continued involvement from municipalities, nonprofits, and residents to ensure a lasting impact. So we really want to invite you to check out both the APHA and the FPHA for more information on smart services and other initiatives our organizations are leading. So at FPHA, our Climate Health Committee is starting up, and we're very excited to be offering new trainings this upcoming fall in partnership with the University of Florida. So we will be launching a climate health ambassador training, as well as a training on responding to extreme heat. So if this is something that you're interested, I would encourage you to check out our websites. And then finally, I just wanted to leave y'all with a little bit of a call to action. So we encourage you to definitely advocate for your city to adopt smart surface policies. Go out and plant a tree or create shaded spaces where you live, and support equitable climate resilience projects that protect the most vulnerable in our communities. Together, through education, advocacy, and action, we can make our community healthier, cooler, and more resilient for the future.
So with that call to action, I wanted to spend a couple of minutes and share some of the work we've been doing in Jacksonville in partnership with FPHA. Our general focus in the Rebald area was the 3 pieces you see on the screen. How might we improve water quality? How might we ensure housing security? And then how do we preserve and celebrate cultural heritage? Next slide. So here's an example of one of the pocket parks where we were able to do some tree planting, we were able to do some park cleanups, and also work with residents to identify areas where we might increase the access to the waterfront. And so We also looked at how we might activate this Ribault River area and bring more people out to the river to enjoy it, but do so safely under the shade of the trees that we were to plant. Next slide. So I mentioned earlier the call to action. We partnered with local companies like Deloitte and organized cleanups so that in order for smart services initiatives to take hold, we needed to also stabilize the public spaces and public parks along the river where we were focused. So we worked with neighborhood associations and groups like Deloitte to organize cleanups, and you can see the result on the screen. Next slide. So our work was centered around the sort of community voice and the importance of the river. And so we worked with St. John's Riverkeeper and Jacksonville University to conduct water tours along the Ribault River to help educate about smart services initiatives and the importance of water quality. And through this effort, this led to an initiative to create vertical oyster gardens along the river. And the oyster gardens were important to help serve as water filters and clean up the river while also beautifying it at the same time. During the last 2 years and the grant period, we've had over 400 people engage in these water boat tours. Next slide. Thank you.